To discuss based off a lot of the questions you guys asked regarding the audit engagement team. So we're going to jump right into it. Attaches the agenda and some of the exhibits we have for the meeting today. We want this to be as interactive as possible, so if you have questions along the way, please feel free to stop us and ask us any questions you have. So I'm going to pass it off to Chris, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the audit team and just the composition of the audit team.
Thank you. As you previously mentioned, that you wanted us to look into the current audit committee composition and look for any suggestions we can make. And so we've done this and we've looked into the SEC requirements. And so I just quickly want to go over them. Attached in the first exhibit is actually like a more detailed description of the rules, but just really quickly, the main two that affect your audit committee are the independence and the financial expert. So independence just means that all audit committee members aren't affiliated with the company so that they can no conflict of interest there. And then the financial expert just means that there's at least one member of the committee that has a financial background or accounting background, whether it be their education or like a previous job. So currently, unfortunately, your audit committee is not in full compliance with both of these requirements. So we just have a couple suggestions, maybe because the audit committee is very important to the investors. So first of all, both Kim and yourself are not in compliance with the independence because as you serve as CEO of the company, you are considered to be an affiliated party. And then Kim, because her company, 30% of the revenues are derived from the Fox Corporation account, it's considered to be a relationship. So our suggestion is to replace both you two on the committee to have independent board members serve. And then secondly, the financial expert. We just need to appoint someone that has a financial background, accounting background of some sort that's on the board.
So is there any issue with me sitting on the audit committee going forward?
We just need to make sure that you are considered to be financially literate. You don't just if there's one expert and then everyone else just needs to be financially literate so they can understand the financial statements.
I think I have that covered since I run my own businesses, been pretty successful, understanding what's going on in my company. So
yeah, so you're fine to stay on,
okay.
Just as long as we get the expert appointed on as well.
I think you're saying you're not an expert.
Yeah.
I think that was the slight
as defined by the SEC.
Yeah, it's just the SEC requirements have specific expert rules. Yeah, but the audit committee is very important to the investors. They're responsible for the integrity of the financial statements. So being in line with all of the requirements and then also monitoring internal controls. So we just want to make sure that you guys are all in line with the regulations so that the investors will be confident that the financial statements are of high quality.
And kind of going off of what she was just saying, basically as the auditor, we're forcing an opinion not just on the material, not just on the financial statements, but also the reliability of the internal controls. And recently we brought to the attention of management the $34,500 understatement in the allowance for doubtful accounts. And those might not be material affecting the financial statements this year. Yeah, I think I guess our engagement team, we're concerned more about the reliability of the internal controls in place. And there's three major concerns that kind of got brought to my attention. The first was the fact that this understatement occurred on the aging analysis report, which is a routine report. When I talked to management, they said it's a routine report, that they don't have anyone to check it. And we understand these IT glitches occur, but this could have been mitigated or even found earlier had there been some sort of secondary review, which brings us to our second concern that there's no one that even checks these systems in place, that it just kind of pumps out these reports and you just kind of take the numbers for what they're worth. Yeah, so when I spoke with the assistant CFO, she said, this is actually our third concern as well, was the attitude that management took when we presented the issue to them. The $34,500 understatement, I brought it to their attention. The assistant CFO had told us that they were going to just pass it off to the IT folks and kind of let them deal with it, and it'll kind of sort its way out. And so, based off of our opinion, when we're kind of looking to see are these internal controls, how are they going to affect the financial statements? If that's the attitude that management's going to take, that's going to trickle down to the rest of the company. And with the recent merger, with assets nearly doubling, you would think that projected revenues are going to increase as well, which would lead to higher receivables. So what might not have been a material effect this time could very well be a material effect next time.
So I think we all agree that maybe the $34,000 is not really material, but what's the implication to your work if it's not material? I hear you that there's issues. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, I can talk about, it basically boils down to an increase in testing from our side.
Okay.
So we have to become comfortable that the internal controls are in place and that there's no problems with them, so that they won't have an effect materially on the financial statements. So about the fees, if you turn to Exhibit 2, so with this increased testing, we are asking for an increase in fees.
So wait a minute, are we saying
Sure.
we already have increased testing because of this AR issue?
No, we're proposing additional
We are
testing.
proposing additional testing, yes.
Of this $34,000 issue?
It's more so, it's really not much the 34,000, it's more of what the 34,000 represents and how it kind of came about. The fact that it was a routine report, that there's no secondary review of systems, and the fact that management's kind of taking this out look, it makes us feel less comfortable with the rest of the systems that are in place, which is why Daniel's going to talk a little bit more about the additional testing that we're proposing.
Sure, so we already spoke with Doug Tanner on this issue of the proposed increase in fees, and he wanted me to relate that to you here today. So we were under the impression on our initial $1.2 million fee proposal that the acquisition of Bow Wow wouldn't occur until mid-2013, and then wouldn't have an effect on this year's financial statements. But since it happened in December of 2012, it does have a direct effect on these financials, and in order for us to feel comfortable with the numbers, we have to do increased testing on all Bow Wow's assets as well that they brought over. So I have just a quick detail in fees. We can go over it quickly. We had $40,000 for goodwill testing, $60,000 for inventory testing. So just to kind of talk about inventory testing, we actually are going to send a team of 4 Grant Thornton professionals out to Bow Wow's 4 warehouses, and we have an outline of their hourly rate, billable rate, and the amount of hours we believe it will take to complete the inventory testing, and that comes out to $60,000. But the biggest thing on this is the systems testing, and this is what we're getting to. So with the acquisition, there was an increase in risk and an increase in assets. So just with acquisitions in general, we have to test Bow Wow systems, so we don't end up with the same kind of internal control aging analysis error. We have to feel comfortable with that, and then we also have to kind of go back and look at Fox Corporation's systems because of this issue that came to light, and look at the internal controls and do more testing on that in order for us to feel comfortable that they are correctly in place. So just as a justification for these fees, if you take a look at the graph, you can see it was about over an 85% increase in assets, and we're only asking for a 17% increase in fees. So we believe this is a great reflection of the work we have to do and our confidence in our Grant Thornton professionals to provide quality work for you.
I don't know about you, but the thing that sticks out to me is like $300 an hour. Are you an attorney or something? I mean,
Yeah.
Sure, so well, this actually takes into consideration our partners, so us, that we're actually going to go and review the work that our staff does, and these are reflections on the marketplace, and we believe it's an accurate reflection of our professionals. I'll pass it on to Brian. He'll sum up a couple of the issues you wanted us to touch on.
So one of the other issues that arose during our audit work was the possible contingent loss regarding a customer lawsuit of $500,000. And based on the evidence that we've received from your outside counsel, Nora Montague, was that the contingent loss is both probable and reasonably estimable of $500,000. So according to U.S. standards, U.S. GAAP, if both of those requirements are met, as shown in Exhibit 3, then the loss has to be accrued on the 2012 financial statements. And we do understand that Fox Corp's management disagrees with outside counsel's suggestion, but as of right now, the only evidence that we've received from you and outside counsel is that it is both probable and reasonably estimable. So we're going to have to include it on the 2012 financial statements. If you have any evidence that suggests the lawsuit might go a different way, if you could send it to us, we would be gladly look over it and then adjust our opinion on whether or not it's both reasonably probable and estimable. So, and then
Yeah, I mean, I know we feel pretty passionately about our position on this matter, and so maybe we need to table it off for a side conversation or discussion. Really just don't think we're exposed to the level that you're holding us to here.
And we understand that. But as of right now, the evidence that we received from you and counsel suggests that it will go against you, and it must be included on the 2012 financial statements. So we won't be able to issue a unqualified opinion on the financial statements should something like this happen. And so, and then the last issue, which is a very minor issue, was the hiring policies with HR. So through our discussions with the HR director, James Miller, there were 2 new hires in the last year, and your policy states that the background checks will be completed within 6 months. However, those should have been done by August 2012 and is now April 2013. So it's 8 months behind schedule. And while there are no laws regulating how you go about your hiring policies, we do suggest that you complete the background checks as soon as possible to ensure that you're hiring the right employees that you want here at Foxwood.
So is there any implication of, I mean, it sounds like we have a slight deviation from the policy. What's the impact to the audit, or is there an impact?
There's no impact to the audit. It's just an issue that was brought to our attention, and our suggestion is that you complete them as soon as possible, just to ensure that you're hiring the right kind of employees and there are no issues with the background checks.
And we would also feel a lot more comfortable if you went through these background checks and made sure that everything is okay. I mean, we're responsible, we're signing off on your financial statements, and it's if there was something wrong, we would like to have known about it before we sign off on those.
I guess, we've kind of gone through the audit fees, but I'm still kind of stuck on that a little bit.
Sure.
So the systems testing here, you think about the timing of our acquisition. This was completed in December, right? Our year end is December, so you all have to do this testing on Bow Wow's systems before you issue an opinion?
Sure, yeah, it happened within the fiscal year, so we do have to do testing on this.
On the systems?
Yes.
I just don't see what the value is there.
Well, the systems, the systems are kind of the base. So the systems, everything trickles down from the systems. Your financials go through those systems. And so in order for us to get comfortable with the end financials, we have to be comfortable with the base that they come out of, which is the systems. And usually we do that earlier, but with the acquisition happening late,